Hi, Sharon here from Beyond Expectations. Just going to run you through the landed cost feature in Cin7 Omni. We have a product here if we are creating a purchase order to bring that in, and we also have an associated freight forwarding cost. We'll just show you how to put that in using the transaction links. So the first step would be on purchase orders when you have purchased the products in. You can add the landed cost purchase order prior to receiving the goods in, but typically it would come in afterwards. So we have a purchase order here for a supplier where we've received some units of product in, and we would need to create the purchase order for the landed cost. So we would create a new purchase order for the landed cost. Under the freight forwarders details that can be entered through the CRM. We'll just enter the line of freight from the bill. So typically on a freight bill from a freight forwarder, they would separate out the freight costs that you will be being charged for the product, and they would separate out another bill for the customs GST that you're paying at the border, and also the duty that would be on a separate one. The transaction costs we would want to link would only be the freight charges. We wouldn't be wanting to add on that GST. That would duplicate it, and that can be entered directly into Xero or QBO. But the freight charges that you're going to have on the product, that would be entered into Cin7. We'll create it here and we'll pass it across to accounting with a accounts payable transaction, but also it's going to be considered landed costs. It's going to come through as inventory across in Xero or QBO. So we put the freight line in here. We don't need to break it down to every single line on that bill. We're just looking at the cost. So we're going to need a line for the product, for the freight cost that includes GST and any that don't include GST. The way we can do this is we can just put no GST on one line. What this will do is it will actually just put the amount that includes GST on one line, and the total should match to the bill that you've entered in. So one of the things we want to do is make sure we land it in on the same day as the product. That's going to help aid the historic stock on hand. If you're reporting on that at a specific time, that landed cost comes in at the same time as the freight does. And we're going to also try and include the invoice date the same month as fully received, just so that that's also going to have an alignment with accounting for the same month for that increase of the inventory cost. Once this is set up, we're going to pop in the total bill, put all the freight charges in, and approve it before we transaction link it. This makes it live on the server in the back end, and then when we link it, it's just going to make it a lot easier for it to associate with that product one. So the product one is purchase order 259. I'm going to locate it here on the transaction linking box here. Quick click. So we found the purchase order here, and in this box we can use allocate at the end and then save, and it's going to allocate that line of freight to that purchase order. It needs to be done for both lines, and you do need to type the purchase order PO-in before searching. We'll find it here, and we've allocated both of those lines. So a few things to note. This is saying fully allocated. If you've under or over allocated, it will be in a different color, and you do have to make sure both of these lines are allocated, otherwise it won't attribute the cost to the product. The other thing here, if you do have more than one purchase order for that bill, you can load up multiple purchase orders. So if we 259 in, you can put a percentage across here. So you can see you could put 60% and 40% across two different bills. As long as you're getting the fully allocated here, that will be accurate. So just remove that one for now. So if we save this back to admin, this is going to create the bill. We're going to import that to accounting. So it's a single entry. No need to reconcile. If this has been entered accurately, then it's going to come across accurately to Xero. There's no need to check it at the end of the month. And we'll see that it's linked here in the actions page. So nice and handy, we can see which purchase order it's related to. And we can immediately get to that one by admin or change as well. So a nice way to see that this is the freight one. We can go to the admin on the product one. So now I'm in the product purchase order. And a nice way to check that the landed costs have added on correctly is just with the report option at the top. So I can see my product. I can see the purchase price if it's been converted to a foreign currency. This one would be in US dollars if it had been set up correctly. And then the freight portion has been added on here. So then we have a updated stock on hand landed cost. So this report's really helpful way just to make sure that everything has occurred correctly and gone through. We can also see against the product as well. Purchase order 258, we can also see the cost is updated here. So landed cost excluding, we've got the $15 per unit for the product, but also the landed cost on there. The other way to do landed costs is using within the purchase order itself for the product. There's a landed cost function down the bottom. We'll show you how to do that on another video. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please leave a comment or feel free to send us an email. Thank you.